What is happening, people? Welcome back to the Scarfey Spurs Talk Podcast. An extra episode for you this week of what I call an emergency podcast following that Bournemouth defeat, and we'll also be previewing Chelsea. Around the country we've seen Store Dara, so I thought it was a good opportunity while people are at home with the horrible weather to talk Tottenham. So I apologise to everyone in advance that I've asked to come on. Firstly, Kallum, you're looking nice and warm and cosy there. How you doing, mate?
Blinking need it, mate. I blinking need it. I'm not going to lie. The storm, obviously, where we are ain't great, is it? But no, I don't know whether you've brought me on to be a voice of reason or for me to vent my aggression. So depends on whether you remove me halfway through. We shall see.
Yeah, it's only time will tell. Thank you, Kallum, as always, for joining me. Welcoming back onto the show, Carl Freegard. How you doing, Carl?
Yeah, I'm good. A bit sleepy. Uni work around this time of year just piles up. It just doesn't seem to end. So I'm just counting down the days for Christmas, really. But yeah, all good.
No, thank you very much for coming on. Good luck with your university work as well. So appreciate you giving us the time this morning when it's been recorded. So thank you very much. Also, welcome back onto the show, Casey, for your second appearance. How you doing, mate?
Yeah, I'm doing good, thank you. Yeah, in my area, the weather is really bad. So bad that I mentioned before that my Wi-Fi is actually currently out. It works for about 5 seconds, then it cuts out again. So, yeah, a bit of a long day. And I've got work later, so.
Yeah, it's not what you want, is it? Not what you want.
No.
Again, thank you for coming on and giving us your time and always, the easiest circumstances. So thank you very much. But if you're new to the channel,
No worries.
Don't forget to smash the subscribe button. It's free to do so, and it helps the channel and the podcast grow. If you're listening after on a podcast platform, whether it be Spotify, Amazon Music, or Apple Music, don't forget to follow and a 5-star review. Check out our sponsors, the Kitman and Secure It VPN. We're hoping to run some giveaways and some discounts before Christmas, so do stay tuned in the next few days or so. But we'll crack straight into it. I'm going to start with Bournemouth, and Kallum, I'm going to start with you. Now the dust has settled, how do you feel about the game?
It was a poor display. How can you make a turd shiny, I think, is the best analogy that I can think of. And to be honest, I can't think of anything really positive out of it, apart from maybe Fraser Forster and Archie Gray maybe being the shining lights of something that really ruined my Thursday night, to be honest, and especially as everyone could watch it on Prime. It was one of them where you kind of hope to get games, and then when you watch something so poor, you think, why do you bother? Because there was nothing in there that inspired confidence in me, especially in a big run lead up to Christmas. And coming off the back of the Fulham game, you hoped for a reaction. I think we had about 10 good minutes at the start where we maybe had a couple of chances, and then it was all Bournemouth. And realistically, Bournemouth deserved more than a 1-0 win. Let's put it that way, because we didn't deserve nothing. And I felt for all the travelling away fans who went down there. It was a gloomy, horrible night. And we obviously saw the reactions of different podcasters, Ange himself, different pundits as well. And I know we'll cover that in the show and all that, but it was not a good showing, to say the least, for me, mate.
No, it wasn't at all. Appreciate that, Callum. Absolutely, as you say, we will cover everything that happened, especially after the reaction as well from some Spurs fans inside the stadium. But I definitely do feel for them making that long journey. Once again, I think they made incredible noise outside the Bournemouth fans throughout the game, despite the performance. So, as always, credit to incredible support, in particular, away from home. Kyle, I'm going to come to you next. Again, same kind of question to you. What are your thoughts? The dust has now settled. We're a couple of days on from that Bournemouth defeat. Is it frustration? Is it anger that you feel when you look back?
Yeah, it's just frustration because, I mean, like Kallum said, the only real standout players that I thought was Forster. I mean, it could have been more than the one, to be honest. It could have been 3-4, the amount of chances they had. I thought he did well. Gray as well, having to fill in at centre-back as well at such a young age. It's a shame, really, because we haven't been able to see him in midfield where he should be playing, to be honest. But yeah, it was just poor all round. I thought we started well in the second half for maybe about 10 minutes. Like we looked, there was a bit more urgency about us, but nothing really challenged Bournemouth or phased them. And like props to them, they played well. They made the most of us playing poorly, but it was just Solanke just looked so starved of service. Like I can't remember a real big chance that he got given other than that one in the first half, which he put over the bar. So just, yeah, I'm just disappointed, but we've got to ride with it. I think there's going to be periods like this going forward.
Yeah, 100%. No, there's definitely going to be bumps in the road, if you like, but thank you, Carl. Casey, I'll move on to you next. Do you think that Kallum and Carl are right in terms of we just never look like scoring?
Yeah, I think both teams, it was quite a weird performance because I think both teams actually kind of played almost similar. I don't think Bournemouth necessarily were creating more chances. I don't think they're necessarily defending more. I just think the one thing that we lacked massively compared to them was just the energy. Bournemouth just wanted it more, and that was simply it. I don't think in terms of the actual quality there was much difference because, yes, at the end, when we had many injuries, that they did create more chances, but for a large majority, throughout the game, they didn't create much. They probably created as much as we did. And it was just they wanted it more. Every single time we'd go forward, you see that their midfielders and their centre backs just fly up. Really get into Solanke and Kulusevski's face. And I think a big problem, I think it was Carl that talks about the creativity, is the fact that I think our right side is very. It just wasn't very creative on the day. I think even though I really do enjoy Johnson, I think his role has become. I think it's very apparent the type of role that he's going to play into the squad. I think one thing that he needs to really do improve about himself is the creativity. We can't just rely on our left side or our middle to create anything. We need to also create on our right side. Yeah. I did think that, especially into the game. But overall, I just think it was a case of energy.
Okay, and I'll stay with you, Casey, because you kind of led me on perfectly to my next point about, do you think the players lacked that commitment? Because you say there that you think it was just like in the end maybe a not necessarily quality thing, but in terms of effort, in terms of Bournemouth wanted it more. Did the players lack commitment for you in that game?
Yeah, I think definitely. I mean, we've seen so far this season that Bournemouth is definitely a very difficult place to go to. We've seen teams like Man City and Arsenal lose there. Yeah. So, going into we knew it wasn't going to be an easy game, but at the end of the day, I do think we have the quality of the squad to win games like this. Especially we've seen very high heights so far this season. So going into it, I wasn't necessarily thinking that we was going to lose it. And I thought the first 10 minutes, which we already discussed, I thought we played all right. And then we could just straight away, we just looked off it. I think after those first 10 minutes of both halves. And like we said before, I just think the players just didn't commit as much as Bournemouth. I think Bournemouth just mentally just wanted it more. I don't think I mentioned before it's about quality. I just think it was all about the commitment.
Okay, that's really interesting. Carl, I'm going to bring you in on this one. Do you think it's commitment based, or do you think just at the end of the day, Bournemouth had more quality? We've got a lot of players out and they just were the better team. Do you think there's a bit more to it in terms of what we're seeing from the players and what they're giving?
I think it is a mix of both. I do agree. I think like the midfield battle, we did lose the majority of the game. I thought Basuma looked a little bit off it during the game. It was, misplaced passes, like lacked that energy really. The same with Sarr, who we're so used to just covering every inch of grass. But I do think the quality of player does come down to it, and not necessarily if they're good enough, but players like Dragazin, for example, is a great classic defender of putting his body in the way. But for the way that we want to play of the high line, I think he's quite a different profile. And it's not really his fault. It's more of a misprofiling on our half, and we can make him work in the sense of him contributing well to the group. But when he's playing with for majority of the second half with a 18-year-old midfielder or right back who's not used to playing in defence, it only really makes matters worse. So I do agree to an extent, that commitment wasn't there, particularly in the midfield.
Okay, thank you. Kallum, commitment, was it there for you? Are the players fighting for Ange Postecoglou, do you think? Or did they, you look at that Bournemouth game and go, that's a lack of fight and that's the team that have checked out? How do you view it?
When you look at Maddison being our captain on Thursday night, I mean, I thought he looked absolutely useless and all that, to be honest. And he's the one that's meant to be leading with passion and leadership on the pitch. And I think that him and Romero, both, whenever they're captains or vice captains, they don't inspire me with any confidence whatsoever. It just looked lackluster. There was no one that was really going. If they win the first ball, they didn't win the second or the third. Let's put it that way. The amount of times we cleared the ball out of our box and it would drop straight to a Bournemouth forward or a Bournemouth centre mid, it was ridiculous. And even when we was then getting up into the Bournemouth half, no one was making them runs into the box or on the right or the left-hand side.
Yeah.
It's so hard to say stuff without going on a massive long rant or swearing or getting aggressive or angry, to be honest with it, because I can be quite passionate with this stuff and I can be brilliant when it's going our way and I'm spitting fire when it's not. And to be honest, in light of that game, I didn't see the only passion that I saw was when Spence went over at the end of the game to console Postecoglou and all of that. That was the only bit of passion I saw. Everyone else they looked like they couldn't be effed and all that, mate, to be honest. They just really couldn't be asked to do anything. And, I mean, yeah, Solanke I can't really comment on because he was devoid of service, but he looked way off of it. And then even when Song came on, he just looked purely frustrated and petulant and couldn't stay on side as well. So, I mean, even your captain didn't look interested that day. So, I mean, we might as well have just played an under-21 setup, go down there. If our players don't want to play, then don't do it. And it just looks like we've just picked up straight from the Fulham game and the Roma game last week as well. There's no idea or consistency or passion to go with consistency, to be honest, mate.
Okay, thank you very much. I mean, Kallum's just mentioned it there, and I want to bring up the whole conversation about leadership. And it is a conversation that always seems to happen and reoccur, if you like, when results don't go our way. I don't think that's necessarily the right thing to do. But there's a lot of questions this season about leadership and whether we lack it or not. Carl, do you think we lack leaders in this team? Obviously, it is a very young team. There's experience in there. Do you think there's not enough experience, though, and maybe we haven't got the right people as captains or vice captains?
Yeah, I think when, like, with your captain, you want them to grab the game by the scruff and lead their team on. And I just think with Maddison, he spends too much time either rolling around on the floor or mouthing off at the referee. And it's like, me personally, I would like my captain to lead by example and set a standard for the rest of the team. And like you said, a young team, like who are they looking up to if their captain is on the floor or mouthing off with the referee whilst they're trailing? It's like you want them to grab the game by the scruff and say, come on, guys, this isn't good enough, lift it, blah, blah, blah. So I think you're right, there isn't enough leadership. That does come with having a younger squad. It will get better over time. You'd hope that, players such as Van der Ven in a couple of years, like a few more years here, he could become, one of the players in the leadership group. The same as Kulusevski, I'd say, is maybe going down that route. He does seem like one of those players who is definitely capable of dictating a game and leading his players on. But yeah, at the moment, not enough leaders in the group.
Yeah, I'm absolutely with you on that. And I actually think Maddison could be a really good captain. I think, there's a time where he allowed, wasn't it, recently Richarlison to take that penalty. I don't think it's what he wanted to do originally, but he thought about it and made the right decisions as captain. So I think that's really good. But at the end of the day, you expect your captain to turn up regularly, at least 9 times out of 10. And the reality is, whether we like it or not, Maddison does talk the big talk. In terms of turning up on the pitch, he's very hit and miss. I think we do lack leaders, but Kulusevski for me is definitely one for the future. I look at the likes of Gray and go how well he's doing in so many different positions. That could be potentially a really good captain there, and someone who's gives it an absolute all, can play in any position, and sadly isn't afraid, isn't lacking confidence. So that could be something potentially to look into. So I think the future's bright in terms of leadership, but right now we haven't got anyone who can turn around, grab the players by the scruff of the neck. Vicario obviously being out as well. Vicario is that vocal point. I'm never a big fan, though, I don't think, of having a keeper as a captain. But Casey, I'm going to bring you in on this. Do we lack leaders for you, or do you just not buy into any of that?
I think, I can't lie, I think for most of my Tottenham life, I don't think we've really had a proper leader. Lloris obviously was a captain for a very long time, and I never really felt like that captain presence when he was on the pitch. It was a shame because during my early years of life, that's when we had Ledley King, and he's probably arguably our greatest ever captain. He properly did lead by example. It's just a shame, obviously, he had his injuries and stuff. And I think what everyone else has said, I think it's just in terms of the vice captain leadership, and also the fact that we have a very young team. I don't think there's anyone here that is a proper leader yet. I think Son is a pretty good leader. I think he's definitely probably one of the better leaders I've seen in my lifetime, even in terms of England and stuff like that. But yeah, I think it's just that vice captaincy. I think a lot of our players who are the vice captains don't lead by example. I think Romero has been an all right captain, but he doesn't seem very vocal, which obviously is a big problem. And like Carl said, the fact that Maddison doesn't, he's very inconsistent. Like, he doesn't consistently lead by example, and I think that's a big problem with him. And like you said as well, I think if we were going to look at other choices, it would definitely be Kulusevski or Vicario, in my opinion.
Okay, that's really interesting. I've got a comment in there about supporting Ange. I will say stay tuned, because the next segment is going to be on Ange Postecoglou, his future, and where we as a panel kind of view his time at Tottenham so far, and what he's kind of left it, I suppose, because everyone has different opinions on that. But I appreciate that. Casey, Kallum, you started the whole conversation about leadership, but Casey mentioned there Son. Do you think he is a good leader? Because there's a lot of people that go, do you know what, actually he is? But I think the general consensus among Spurs fans is that maybe he's not the right captain. Would you agree with that?
Sorry, did you say my name? I think you lagged out right as you said the
That's
name.
right. No, sorry, I was asking Kallum.
Oh, yeah, even I'm frigging deaf then on that one. I think Son's been a great servant. I think he's been a decent captain for South Korea, not South Africa. Jesus Christ, wrong continent everywhere on that one. Definitely a Saturday morning, but I don't think he's about enough now, to be honest. I don't think he's consistent enough. I don't think he's actually even on the pitch enough now as well to justify it and all that. The amount of times that he's out injured now, you need your captain around all the time. And that's why I think Harry Kane only ever remained as a vice captain, because he always had long stints of injury to his name. And I think that Son is the same, to be honest. But is there any better option out there? Kulu, maybe, but even he can drift in and out of games. I don't think there's someone consistent enough in our squad who I would say for definite, who's either not injury prone, does enough on the pitch to get 40, 50 games out of them, or does enough actually in games to say that I could justifiably take it away from Son. But do I think he's a good captain? Not particularly. He's still he likes to joke about and have a laugh with the guys and all that. I more consider a captain to be someone who's going to take a game by the neck, get all the players, like Thiago Silva used to do and all that. He'd literally grab players and start kicking them up in the air and going, what the hell are you doing? You need to do this, you need to do that. And that's why he was a prime captain for Brazil, for Chelsea, for PSG as well for so many years to do it. I don't think Sonny's got a bad bone in his body to be able to do that and change games like that either. So realistically, there's options in there, but not for this year, not for next year, maybe in 2 years, 3 years time and all that. But Sonny's just going to stay there. And I mean, even Ben Davies is probably the elder statesman in there, and he has been captain for Wales a little bit, but even he's classed as gentle Ben, isn't he? So I mean, does he really inspire that sort of guts and guile to you to be able to do it? But he did make a great last minute challenge as well to take one for the team against Bournemouth. So I mean, he does have a nasty side in his locker, but then whether it's consistent enough, so it's such a difficult one, mate. To be honest.
It is, and it's a very young team, isn't it? And the kind of only experience I would say is you've got Forster, Davis, Werner. There isn't much else, is there, when you look around the whole squad? And I don't think a lot of people are going to like this, but I'm going to say anyway. I think when we sold Højbjerg, whether you think it's the right decision or not, I think that was a player that was fit pretty much every single week, a very committed player, and I think he's a good leader. And I think we lacked that. And I always looked at him and thought, okay, no, he hasn't got necessarily the ability. Or the high ceiling or potential, if you like, that maybe some of our midfielders have, Maddison, Bentancur, Kulusevski, etc. But this is a committed player who I think would be a good leader, and I think we lost that when we sold him. But I mean, Kallum, you mentioned Ben Davies right there, for example, and I think he's done really well recently. So actually, I'll come to Kyle to get your thoughts on this. Do you think Ben Davies has done well? He's stepped in since Van der Ven's got injured, massive blow for us, and I think Davies has softened that blow a little bit, hasn't he, despite the results, because of how well he's done?
Yeah, I think off the top of my head, in my lifetime watching Spurs, he is probably one of the most disrespected players I have seen at the club. He's not an amazing player. He's not a flashy, world-class player, but I can't really remember a time where he had necessarily a bad game. Like, he constantly puts in maybe a 6 or 7 out of 10 performance, which as a like a depth player, but filling in for injuries, you can't really ask for more. And he does have experience in the league as well. It's been near 10 years now that he's been with us. So he's a very experienced player. And I think he has done a good job. He's done a lot more than what I think people were maybe expecting of him and Dragusin to do. I think we looked shaky at the back against Bournemouth. We conceded quite a few shots, but I don't think defensively it's been nowhere near as bad as what we thought it would be. I think it's mainly been an attacking thing of not making chances, not killing off games when we do get those chances. But yeah, I think he's done fine, to be honest, and I don't really understand the hate that's directed towards him, particularly online.
Nor do I. I think it's really lazy, isn't it? And I think if you look at when Davies come off against Bournemouth, that's when they had all their chances, and it could have scored 2, 3, 4 goals if you look at it. And I think Dragusin, when he's been better, he's had Davies next to him, that kind of experienced head. And I think that I said it in the summer, I'll say it again when he's approaching the January transfer window, in the summer window next year, I'd keep hold of Davies as long as possible as that role model around the squad. And it's just you need a player like that. I think Chelsea had it with Thiago Silva, as Kallum mentioned, or Cesar Azpilicueta, for example, a player where, getting towards the end of their career, but it's the right role model you want for that Chelsea defence, someone to look up to. And Davies isn't going to set the world alight with his performance, his ability, as you say, Carl, but he's still that reliable head. Kallum, what have you made of Ben Davies? Because obviously, this podcast may be doom and gloom at times today. It may be a therapy session, but a positive surely has to be Ben Davies' recent performances, regardless of the result.
Yeah, no, I'm all for Ben Davies being a squad option and all that. I mean, he, like we all say, he never sets the world alight. He does his bit. He just gets on with it. He doesn't have any issues. The long-term plan, as I'm aware, is that he's going to be around the squad for another year with an extended contract, and then most likely transition into a coaching setup with the under-18s or 21s with it. So, I mean, he's a good presence to have about. And the link with saying that Dragusin plays better with him is totally correct, because he gives a natural left-sider, because we've seen Dragusin play on the left-hand side because Romero can't play there, and then Romero play on the left-hand side because Dragusin can't play there, and it's like seeing two old ladies with handbags fighting and all that. It is literally embarrassing. They both track the same way. They both drift off the right. They can't stay tight to a doggy, and when he goes. Sorry, I think my Wi-Fi drops in.
Yeah, I think you're having some audio issues, Kallum. Keep going.
Yeah, can you hear me now? Is that
Yeah,
better?
that's better. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, seeing Ben Davies alongside Dragassin's a lot more calm.
Yeah, your audio's
He's
going again, I'm afraid, Kallum. So we will come back
still
to
a young
you in a
defender,
little
and
bit.
Ben has
Is to do with the storm. If people don't know that, that's the only thing we're recording. With Storm Dara, it's quite powerful, and I think we're all suffering a few Wi-Fi and connection issues. But we'll move on to the next segment of the podcast, which is to do with Ange Postecoglou. I'm going to play a clip from him right now. What he said post-match after Bournemouth. Reminder, we're also going to preview next Chelsea, so do keep listening. But this is what Ange Postecoglou had to say after what I call the Bournemouth disaster.
Yeah, I'm not hurting. I'm determined. That's all. I don't want to say it's unacceptable because, like I said, it is what it is. I've lived in this world for long enough to know that when people aren't happy, they'll express their opinions, and I'm never going to hide. I'm never going to shirk that responsibility. That's fine. You know, I'll take on board. Is it nice? No, because like I said last night, I'm not just a manager. I'm a human being like everyone else. None of us likes to hear those sort of things, but it is what it is. It doesn't disappoint me. It doesn't frustrate me. It doesn't make me angry. I'm just as determined as ever to get it right. Not because of that, but because of my resolve to bring success to the football club.
Casey, I'm going to come to you on that one. What did you make of Ange Postecoglou there? Again, I thought he was very honest in his kind of assessment of the game. He focused obviously on that fan and that booing after the game. So what did you make of that? Casey? I think Casey's having audio issues. So again, we'll move on. Kallum, I'll come to you. What do you think of what Ange Postecoglou said?
It was one of them where he's been around long enough. He's heard enough shit in his life to take it on the chin, but he will bite back. That's what I took from that. I think that his human element will always go into self-defense for it a little bit, and I think he was definitely feeling the pressure because obviously we did see his reaction to the fans and where a steward had to tell him to back the hell off and all that away from the fans at the end of the game. So yeah, I think he's feeling it a little bit now for the first time in a long time. Let's put it that way, mate.
Do you think he's feeling the pressure? Carl, do you think he's also feeling the pressure? What did you make of his assessment there? I mean, he said it doesn't faze him, it doesn't anger him, the booing that he received and the heckling after the game from, a few in the away end.
Yeah, no doubt it probably does affect him. As humans, you never want to hear that you're not doing a good job at the job that you're being paid for. But I do think as well, it's great that he is putting up that it's not affecting him. The last thing you'd want is your manager to be visibly like affected or saying that they're affected, because what would that have as an effect on the rest of the squad? Seeing the person that's meant to be leading them out each week and representing them crumbling in press conferences. So yeah, I think it's only natural for him to start feeling the pressure when things haven't been going his way. But I quite liked the quotes of that. He's more on board than ever, and it does fill me with confidence that he knows what he's doing, and that surely better days are ahead than now.
Yeah, absolutely, mate. I hope so. And the reality is, every Premier League manager is under pressure. It's a highly paid job. It's a highly pressured job. That's there's no secret. Even Kieran McKenna of Ipswich achieved back-to-back promotions, but if they'd lost, let's say, 8 games in a row, he's going to feel the pressure. That's the Premier League. Whether it's right or wrong, your history is kind of discounted, what you've done for the club or previously. Eddie Howe with Bournemouth is a perfect example. Or Sean Dyche with Burnley probably shouldn't have been sacked after what he's achieved, but it's a results-based business, and regardless of what you've done for the club, you're sacked off that. So I don't think his position's under scrutiny, if you like. I think he's starting to feel a little bit of the pressure you two have both said. But I'm interested to hear next your opinions on him and where you stand. So, Carl, I'll come to you first. Are you still fully behind Ange Postecoglou? That's the impression you give me.
Yeah, no, I am. Because I think the people that are campaigning for Ange to be sacked and all of this like nonsense online, like I saw a lot of it in the last couple of days. My Twitter feed is just Ange out, absolutely everywhere. But I do think if we sack him, it will be the same cycle going every single time. A manager starts well when they have a fully fit squad. Injuries they get hit with injuries. They have to replace the injured players with the mediocre players that have been at the club for maybe a little bit too long, and then form falls off a cliff and they get sacked. And then another manager comes in and same goes. We've seen it so many times since Pochettino got sacked, and it just wouldn't change anything. Ange is probably one of the first managers since Poch that I think has actually left like a true identity or like playing style within the side. I wasn't really convinced with Jose and Conte. I didn't think that it was sustainable going forward in the future. So I'm definitely on board with Ange still. He's a project manager. He's been signed for a project, and I think again with the Spurs fan base, we say all the time that we should stop. We should go away from signing the win now managers and invest in a project manager. But when it actually comes down to the project, a lot of the fans don't want to hear anything of it and are questioning why the results aren't coming straight away.
Absolutely, I agree with you. Thank you very much, Kyle. Callum, I'll come to you next on Ange and where you stand with him, because I'm interested in your thoughts. Obviously, we talk, generally a lot, but I think opinions can easily change, especially when you have like the recent results we have. I think it's easy to forget, though, isn't it, that Man City, 10, 11 days ago, that we absolutely thumped them. So I think that is very easy to forget. But Callum, do you think if we sack Ange, surely we go further away from ending that trophy drought? You go back to square one, as Carl was saying, the start of another rebuild, another project. That's not what we need, is it, really?
Yeah, it's not an Ange problem. It's a Tottenham problem. And realistically, the people who lead Tottenham are Daniel Levy, Rebecca Capelhorn, Donna Cullen, and all the other toxic board members that we've got who focus on the business side of football and not the footballing side of it. And realistically, I think, like Barney said, Ange needs to have until the end of the season to do it, see how it goes, see how they respond in January. I mean, Johan Langer, whenever I hear anything about him and whenever I hear anything about the transfer strategy, it just reminds me of hearing Steve Hitchin back on that bloody Amazon documentary as well. So, I mean, he's about as clueless as a bag of dog shit on someone's front doorstep. So, I mean, you've got that. And then, excuse me, there's just a devoid of everyone going, oh, yeah, we're on the right path. We know where we're going. Well, I don't think people do and all that. And I just hope that Ange does become a mouthpiece or a yes man for the club and all that. He was happy to challenge him last year. Now he's fully becoming Daniel Levy and all that, where he's going, like we said, great transfer window in the summer. No, it really wasn't. It's this whole culmination of things, and we're not even at bloody or we're not even at Christmas yet, and it's all. The wheels have fallen off, the cart's gone down into the ditch, and we're all trying to pull it back out. And we don't even have enough players in the first team squad to be able to even grab hold of something. So it's such a difficult one. And to be honest, I'm becoming Enoch out more and more every week at the moment and all that. I was one of them that was quite on the fence with it. Now I'm just thinking we need a change of leadership, to be honest. And I think that Ange could stay with that project with proper backing and all that. But even he's going to get paid off and go, well, why the hell am I backing this club when the fans hate me, the club don't support me and all that? And like Carl said, having an identity with Ange is great and all that. But if the club aren't going to back him to do his identity, he's just going to be another manager that comes in for 1 to 2 years, which seems to be the lifespan of a manager now, especially under Enoch. And like everyone loved seeing Harry Redknapp, Martin Jol at the club, Pochettino, but Poch is the only one that was the longest serving manager at the club under Enoch's tenure. Everyone else lasted 2 years and either had a meltdown like Conte did, deliberately turned themselves into getting sacked like Mourinho. Nuno just completely pointless. Ramos still got sacked even though he won a cup and all that as well. So, I mean, AVB as well. He had one of the best win records for us, got sacked. Sherwood was just a twat, so I'm glad he got sacked, to be honest.
I know you don't like him.
he was a good academy director, but that's where it ended. And as a pundit, he's an absolute moron. But the whole point is that if you want to have an identity as a club, well, our identity is we sack managers. We start a project, get bored of said project, and we then flush that project down the toilet. And unfortunately, the manager doesn't even remain as residue in said toilet. He's completely gone, and we start again.
Yeah, no, I think what you're saying is completely valid. I think a lot of people will feel that way, but to look at it on the flip side, because obviously we focus a lot about defending Ange Postecoglou. Do you think he's innocent in all of this? Like, we've seen a lot of injuries recently, in particular a lot of hamstring injuries. Davis, the latest, we're rating on the scan results for him. Is that surely system-based? Yeah, the high-intensity system, and can that is that sustainable? And is it possible to win with that system in the Premier League, which demands players, top players, giving 110% 2 or 3 times a week, doesn't it, really, if you look at it?
It definitely has some impacts of it, but then Arteta and Pep both play high line, high press, high intensity systems. Even Bournemouth play high intensity systems, and realistically, their medical department copes with it. They get them through a 38 or 39 game season and all that without any issues. Our medical department have been absolutely appalling for going on 10 years now and all that. I mean, it's the same recurring injuries. They go, oh, yeah, it's fine. Then we get the player back. They go, it's fine.
We rush him back, don't we? We aggravate the injury every time.
And then we need surgery. I mean, take Ryan Sessegnon, one of the best young prospects in the country, being the heir apparent to Ashley Cole as our new England left-back. And he's now left the club after 5 years, 2 surgeries, not getting around because of the amount of hamstring injuries he's had because we didn't deal with it in the first place. And now he's sitting at Fulham. And I don't know how he's doing for Fulham, so I'm sure Barney can instruct us on that. Yeah, but that's the thing. So, I mean, Tottenham ruin players. We ruin players through injuries and all that. And there's only so much that you can say that the person's body is doing that. It's, to be honest, it's Jeff Scott who's in charge of our medical team. And to be honest, I don't know what him and his physios do and all that, and his sports scientists, because these players are meant to be geared up to the modern game. And it just seems that Spurs aren't.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I completely agree with you. Casey has had to drop out of the podcast. He's experiencing, as he explained before, Wi-Fi issues. So we thank him for coming on for a short duration. But got someone else on instead for the remainder of the podcast. To make his debut on the Scarfey Spurs Talk Podcast is Joseph. How are you doing, Joseph?
Hello. I'm good, thank you. How's everyone doing?
I'm good, thank you. Thanks for joining us. I want to bring you in on the conversation because we're talking about Ange Postecoglou. Where do you stand with him? Are you still fully behind him, and do you think he's innocent in all these conversations that we're having?
To be fair, I've been thinking about it recently. I don't think getting rid of him is going to be a solution. It's not going to, we've had a revolving door of managers over years and years, and it's never, we've never stuck. We've never really, other than Pochettino, we've never really trusted a rebuild. So I don't think getting rid of him is the right answer. But to me, there is some clear problems with the tactics. I don't feel like people are really... I know we've obviously had some great performances, obviously the City away, United away, Villa at home. But some of these other games have been awful. And I don't think people really actually recognise it. Like, we could have lost by 5 against Bournemouth. We genuinely could have. And it's just against the low block, we seem lost for ideas, creating opportunities. And then defensively, there is no defensive structure in the way that he plays. And to me, that's why I'm struggling to believe if he will 100% be the person to push us forward. You know, even when he does finally get the investment, if that is from Levy or if that is, you know, obviously we hope from another owner eventually, but that's why I'm just struggling to be sure. Maybe, again, it's a bit more short-sighted and not looking further down the line, but I don't know. I don't know what you guys think, but just for me, the lack of defensive structure is really making me think, how could we ever become a consistent force in the Premier League, in other competitions, when it all starts with your defense? I mean, we're seeing it from, I mean, it's sad to say, but we're seeing it from Arsenal. Like, they built their team from the defense forward, and they've got a structural position. Like, they've got depth at first, but they've also got they know exactly what they're doing at the back, and we don't have that at all, in my opinion.
No. Do you think we've improved though defensively this season? Obviously, before recently, we had Van de Ven, Romero come out. Davies looks like he's out with a hamstring injury now, waiting to hear that scan how long he's out for. But do you think we've improved defensively, like set pieces? And obviously, you can see from a set piece against Bournemouth. But up until recently, do you think we've solved a few of those problems, or we just got lucky?
I don't think we've improved massively defensively. Again, I just think if you look at some of these games that we've played, you look at obviously the Brighton away, that second half was dreadful. You've got obviously the Bournemouth away, you've got Ipswich, you've got what else have you got? You've got even Coventry away. No one talks about that game. That was awful. I genuinely, I don't know if I've seen one of our worst games. No one talks about it because we got away with it, but we were dreadful throughout the whole game. As soon as we play against a team that we're expected to beat, that are going to play in a way that doesn't benefit our system, our counter-attacking system, we fall apart. And eventually teams are going to, even the bigger teams might kind of get that sense and be like, you know what, actually, maybe we need to change our tactics a little bit to get past this Tottenham team, not give them so much freedom up front, play a bit more defensive, because we know that we will eventually make a silly mistake. They'll go 1-0 up and then the game's in their hands. They can do what they want and we just capitulate. And again, it's the amount of chances we're conceding. Again, we genuinely could have lost 5 or 6-0 to Bournemouth the other day. We really could have. They just were very poor in front of goal, but they had the chances to score. And it's like, how can you've got to have some kind of flexibility in that when, you know, you've got to have some kind of structure at the back. I mean, the fullbacks don't play as fullbacks, do they? Porro and Udogie are always forward. And there was points, I know we were chasing the game, but there was points where it was a 2-2. It was just Dragoshin and Archie Gray. Towards the end of that game, they were the only two defenders. And that's not viable to me personally. That's not, if you want to go and win a league, if you want to go and even win these trophies, you can't have that lack of structure at the back. It can't be the fact that we can, you know, maybe we'll win a game 4-3, but to be a big team, you can't be conceding 3-4 goals a game.
No, I really appreciate that, Joseph. It was really interesting to hear, and thanks again for coming on. Carl, I'll come to you. I want to get your thoughts on a couple of things. I think firstly we go with defensively. Do you think we've improved defensively this year?
I mean, technically we are conceding less chances than what we were last year. And I think set pieces, we are still prone to a few set pieces, like conceding a few set pieces. But from last year, I think it's got a lot better. People like to bring up that we lost to Arsenal to a set piece. However, Arsenal are probably the strongest side from set pieces in Europe. So it's not really that much of a surprise. And when they are playing, like Joseph said, they've got a structure up in place of how their defence works. When they are playing a back four of primarily centre backs who have moved to left back and right back, they are going to be an aerial threat from set pieces, as well as having Kai Havertz, who's 6'3". So I think defensively we are conceding less chances, but I do agree. Like inverting both fullbacks, to start off with. It was fun and it was exciting because we hadn't seen it before. We'd had quite a few years of fossil football, really, with Jose and Conte, boring, slow, counter-attacking football. I think to begin with, it was really exciting and it was really fun and it was different and it worked because teams weren't really sure on how to, combat it. But I think if we are going to invert fullbacks, it maybe should just be the one and maybe like the other fullback tuck in. If we played Van der Ven at left back, he tucked in to make a back three. Have Jaggers in and Romero along with him. I think that could work. And I think he did try that out when he was the Australia manager. I think it was around 2018. He played a 3-2-4-1 like Pep does. Why not give it a go? Add a different option going forward rather than just doing the same thing every time and hoping that it works. I know he's wanting to set in that philosophy and that style of play, and it would be silly to just change it as soon as something goes wrong, because what impression does that have on the players that are trying to buy into it? But it's always worth having another option going forward while still tying into the way that he wants them to play, which is attacking, fast, possession-based football.
Okay, that's really interesting. Really appreciate that, Carl. Again, you make some really good points. Kallum, I want to bring you in on this one. Inverted fullbacks, let's talk about it. Carl's brought it up there, and it's a good point. I didn't plan to bring it up, but I think it has to be discussed. Yeah, okay, we don't want to focus on Chelsea yet because we're coming on to that next. But for example, that type of opposition, or when we play Man City, obviously we did get a good result against them. Is it right to invert both fullbacks, take that risk against teams that may be better going forward? Are you with Carl in terms of maybe it's fun, but maybe, enough is enough now?
What a load of bollocks. What a load of bollocks. To be honest, the whole idea of this inverted fullbacks, it doesn't work for me because you overload the midfield and then you expose yourself to anyone who's got a quick winger. Yeah. Every team in the Premier League has a quick winger, unless you maybe, I don't know, Southampton, because all your players are just useless. Sort of
just
thing.
wait until you play Southampton, will probably end up getting better.
Yeah, we'll probably lose, yeah.
Well, that's the thing. Literally, I mean, what they got? Oh, Tyler Dibbling. So, I mean, he'll literally become the heir apparent to God knows how many outstanding wingers. But, I mean, the whole point of it is that you want a structured game. Inverted fullbacks don't give you a structured game at all. It overloads you in one position and you then expose yourself in 4 other positions. And the fact that he wants Udogie and Porro or whoever's playing in that fullback positions to operate as 10s as well, when you look at it, it might work 1 in 10 times. But I mean, the whole aim is to win games from the back, but Ange's mantra is outscore people. Well, that used to be how Klopp used to be in his first season. And if you guys remember, we killed Dejan Lovren's career at Wembley in a 4-1 win, which stopped him being a Premier League player, because that was Klopp's principle. You outscore the opposition and and it didn't work. So then by the time that Klopp evolved as a manager to become the manager he was last year, and how we all remember him, that he had a well-structured defence at the back who were capable of scoring goals. I think Guardiola's had to realise that as well. And this season, obviously, they're conceiving a lot of things because obviously they went to play in this inverted system. So I think so many teams are going to have a nice year of playing about with this inverted system and realising that it has its merits, but it has more faults when it comes to it. And to be honest, if we are going to play that, then you need to have 2 fast centre-backs like Arsenal do in Saliba and Gabriel, who could clear up loose ends for it.
Do you not think we've got that in Van der Ven and Romero when they're fit?
Romero's too static and has been caught 5 times this year ball watching. So, I mean, he's less than useless at this point, to be honest, for me, because I think he's going to go in the summer to Real or at least look to go. And Van der Ven, really quality player, but every time he has to be forced into doing recovery runs, that's how he does his hamstring. So then you've got another problem that if we're playing this inverted system, we're getting exposed at the back, and these recovery runs, he's doing his injuries in. So we then lose him for. I mean, they said that this hamstring weren't that bad. Well, we played that game about nearly 2 months ago now. He's been out and all that. He's been out since nearly October and all that. So what does it say to us? So I think, yeah, Ange, you're a principled man, but I don't think that this inverted fullback system is right for it. Let's put it that way. But it's only my opinion, mate.
To be fair, I feel like we're set up to play a three at the back. To me, like the way that Udogie and Porro move forward, it means like again, maybe we don't have the defenders, really, do we? Don't have the centre backs. I mean, they're all injured, but even then, I mean, if you had Dragusin, Romero, and Van de Ven, it just feels a bit more solid. And then Udogie and Porro have the freedom to go and do what they want. They're not going to get found out in behind as much. But I mean, we know Ange. He's always like, "No, this is the way I'm playing, mate. This is what I'm doing, mate." And it's, I don't know. It just seemed he's really, really wanting to stick with this style. And I don't see again. We see it against the bigger teams how it works against the teams that allow us to get in behind. But these other teams that come up against us and they go, you know what, we're just going to sit back because we can't creatively break them down. And all they need to do is go on a counter-attack. And it's a 2v4 every time, feels like. They have such good goal-scoring opportunities every time. And it's like, I don't get it. It feels like hospital football. I don't think it's going to work long-term. But, yeah, I mean, I guess the thing is Levy can't sack him because he's the one who brought him in. He wants to bring him in and he's probably going to try and hide behind the sacking. But if you brought him in...
James, if you were Levy right now, would you pull the trigger?
No, because he's the one who's brought him in. He wants him to be the guy. We've obviously had some poor, footballing styles from Conte, not the ones that we used to, again, with Mourinho as well. And he's gone, okay, we want our Tottenham back. So let me bring in a manager who's going to play this free-flowing attacking football. Okay, well, you've got that now. You've got to back it. If you want this to succeed, if you want Tottenham to succeed, you've got to back it. So for him to sack him, it just shows that he's hiding behind these managers. And again, he is a businessman. He doesn't care about the results on the pitch, doesn't he? So, I hope he doesn't sack him. From all of that I've said, I don't know if he is the right man for the job. I don't. But for Levy's sake, he should not be sacking him. For me, he needs to back him. He needs to give him the tools to succeed.
Okay, that's really interesting. Really appreciate that. And I've got something here, and I've read it before, and I think we know this, but it still amazes me every time. A Tottenham manager has only completed a full season once since 2019, that being Ange Postecoglou last season. Firstly, think we need to unite behind him. I think that for me is quite alarming when you read that and you think, wow, first manager since 2019. That's quite a long while now, going into 2025 next year. So that never fails to amaze me. I think you have to give him time. And we were on top of the world, weren't we? A couple of weeks ago, less than that, against that win over Man City. So I think we have to be careful there. But on a positive note, I want to talk about Bergwall's cameo against Bournemouth. Kallum, how do you think he done? Obviously, he come on for a few minutes at the end. I thought he looked like a shining light through like a dark tunnel because it was a bad day for Spurs. But I think the future's bright, isn't it? Kallum.
Yeah, no, there's definitely potential there as a player. I mean, he had his cameo against City, didn't he? A couple of weeks ago as well in that link up with Timo Werner for Johnson's fourth goal. So I mean, there's definitely a player in there, but I think if you're going to use him, you've got to use him properly.
Okay.
I think it does feel a bit tough right now with Bergwall. From every time I see when he's on the pitch. Oh, sorry, were you still talking?
That's right. Callum has audio issues. Keep going.
Oh, that's okay. Every time I see him, I do like it, but it doesn't feel like he knows his role yet. I feel like there's times when I see him and he feels like a bit of a passenger on the pitch. Like he doesn't seem to get stuck in, but he also doesn't seem to He doesn't seem to always be on the ball. So it's like, what is his actual role in this team? I don't think he's really what Maddison is, but he's definitely not what Basuma is.
Do you see him as an 8 or 10? You mentioned about his role there, and I think he's definitely up for debate. I'm not sure at this moment in time.
That's what I mean. I'm not sure. That's why I think he's not looked completely comfortable yet. Maybe, obviously, it's also the step up from the Swedish League to the Premier League. It's obviously going to be a massive step for him. He doesn't seem as readily, as ready for the Premier League as obviously maybe Archie Gray does. But I think also it's just the fact that I don't think he's found his role in this Tottenham team yet. Because to me, he wants to play between the boxes, but it's hard. Like, I don't know. It's really tough with him. I think obviously he just needs some more time, but I don't know. For me, he did look good. Like, he wanted to get on the ball. He wanted to drive with it against Bournemouth. But still, though, there was times where I watched him run back, and he was like, it was like he was trying to defend and help out Dragoshin and Archie Gray, but then he wasn't actually getting stuck into challenges or really getting, making much impact on that defensive end. So it's a tough one with him, but obviously we've got to give him time. It's only been 6-7 months since he's come in, so he needs some time to develop.
Yeah, no, he does. He certainly does. Thank you very much, Carl. What do you think of Bergevall and his season so far? And do you think he has a best position?
Yeah, I'm not really sure either, to be fair. I think maybe I would maybe want to see him in that 10 role purely because he does lack that physical side to him. Like, he's not got that physical presence as maybe what Bentancur does or Basuma or whoever. But I thought he was good against Bournemouth when he came on. I thought he was decent. I think when he's played in Europe for us, when he started, he's just kind of looked like a deer stuck in the headlights. Like, he's just looked really nervous. And again, he is only 18. He's moved away from Sweden, like his home country as well. It's going to take time for him to settle. I'd quite like to see him maybe have a loan move at some point to maybe another Prem side, like a lower Prem side, just for him to get more game time. I think it could do him some real good because there's definitely a player in there. Hence why Barcelona were interested in signing him also. You don't attract them type of clubs if there's not something about you. And from clips of him playing in the Swedish league, you could see, of course, is the Swedish league. It is quite a jump from the Premier League, but you could see that there is definitely a hell of a player in there. But I'd like to see how things go in the next 12 months with him, because I definitely think he could be of good use in the future to us.
Okay, thank you very much. That's really interesting to hear. And we will move on now to Chelsea. And Joseph, I'll start with you. How are you feeling going into it? Obviously, recent results haven't been good. I think the general consensus among Spurs fans will not be that good going into the game. You different? You feeling confident or not?
Not really. I mean, everything that the season has shown us makes it seem like we're going to go beat them 4-0. But it's really hard because we know they will be open at the back. We know that they're going to give us chances, and maybe that will play into our favour. We've seen it against City, we've seen it against Villa, we've seen it against United. We like playing against that kind of team, and for some reason, the players also seem to get up for these type of games. The big games they seem to be wanting to show up for and play. These so-called smaller games they seem to kind of hide away and not really take the game by the scruff of the neck. So maybe we'll be surprised and they'll come out and give us a good performance. But part of me is thinking it could fall flat, similarly to what we've been seeing, again, a little bit against Fulham, obviously, against Bournemouth on Thursday. So I'm quite unsure. I don't know what to expect. But, Ange needs to get them up for this game. I mean, it's been 2 pretty poor performances. We've got such a tough run in now, like until January, where hopefully we make some signings. But, you've got Rangers after this, which I'm not going to lie, I've got a feeling it's going to be really, really tough. We've got Liverpool. We've got United again in the Carabao Cup, which is a massive game for Ange, really. So he needs to try and steady the ship a bit. Is he going to? I really don't know. I really don't know. I mean, it depends if, is Romero going to be fit? Who's going to be available for this game? We probably know Van der Ven's still going to be out. Obviously, Ben Davis is now out for a long time. We've got plenty of injuries. We all know that. But I don't know. It's tough to see. I mean, Chelsea look in such good form as well right now. They really do. And they've got such good depth. I mean, against Southampton, they rested 6 or 7 of their starting players ready for this game. And they still won 5-1. So, yeah, it's going to be a tough one, definitely. And I can't say I'm looking forward to it massively. But, we'll see. I wasn't really looking forward to the Man City game. I know we always usually get something over them, but I feel like every time I go into it, I'm still thinking, yeah, but it's Man City. They're better than us, really. But, we ended up, that's one of the best performances I've seen from Tottenham in a long, long time. Followed up by one of the worst I've ever seen in a long, long time. So, yeah, we'll see what comes. I don't think anyone can really know what's going to come on Sunday.
No, exactly. You just can't tell. And I was like that with you as well with City. I was like, I think we're going to actually get turned over here. I think City are going to want to respond to when we beat them in the League Cup. But no, I think we played them at a good time, and I think we were excellent. I think it's a bit of both, and that's the thing, isn't it? Going quickly back to the Bournemouth game, we've got to get that balance between we were awful. Yeah, we had injuries. The suspension of Ben Scott hasn't made it injuries. You've got to be easy. You've got to bear that in mind. But I don't think we were great. But also, you've got to give credit to the opposition in Bournemouth, where I thought we're excellent, defensively sound, create a lot of chances. And I think he's always getting that balance is hard because as fans, we naturally want to be angry. We want to see change. But I think a lot of it, we played teams at good and bad times. We played City at a very good time. I think we played Bournemouth at a bad time. I don't know about Chelsea. So a lot of it is outside factors. So I think we've got, as fans, got to be open-minded. It's easy, and it's my fault I should touch on that with Bournemouth. I think also give credit to Bournemouth and Iriola. I think they've had a really good start of the season. I think one of you mentioned it, apologies, I can't remember who, about they've been getting results against those bigger teams, Man City, for example, in particular at home. So credit Bournemouth.
I mean, Bournemouth have been playing really well. For me, the problem with the game wasn't the fact that Bournemouth beat us. I'm open to us losing games. It's more
the fact we should have lost by more, isn't it?
That's what I mean. It's how you lose.
Yeah.
There's times where it's like, okay, well, we're not playing well today, but let's at least stay structured, just kind of stay in the game. And I know we were in the game, but we should never have been in the game. We should have been 3-4-0 down. The game should have been over by the 70th minute. And it's just, this is where I'm struggling with the tactics. It's like we should have been completely out of that game. We should never have even been close to being in it.
To me, Brighton away proved this year that once we concede, our heads drop. And also we've had other evidence to suggest that the other way, when we score, momentum's with us. I think Ipswich is an exception, but generally we come back. And we are a very momentum-heavy team. We have a lot of players, the likes of, I can think of Johnson and Werner, are a good example, that heavily rely on confidence. So I think we're a confidence-based team, a momentum-based team. But what is worrying, I think, about this team is we don't respond to setbacks very well. I don't think anyway. I don't think there's that coming out of the blocks absolutely firing, and that is a shame.
I mean, you see, it's hard. Obviously, I want to compare us to some of these bigger teams, like Liverpool, Arsenal, City. Well, maybe we're not there right now. I mean, Ange said it in his press conference. We're in a rebuild, so maybe we are in a rebuild. But it's just, I think, I saw Liverpool against Southampton. Liverpool weren't excellent on that day, but they stayed in the game. They made sure that they had an equal chance to win it, and then they got the result. And I don't see that with Tottenham. It's either we batter our opponents and we deserve to win, or it's the opposite. We get battered and we deserve to lose. There's got to be times where you grind out a result and get through the game, and we haven't seen that much this season. It's always usually been one or the other. We're just so inconsistent, and it's okay to sometimes not play your best, but you've got to still be able to find a result. And in that Bournemouth game, did any of you think we were ever going to score? I didn't think we were ever going to score. It didn't look like we had a chance in that game, and that's the problem. It's not about being beaten by Bournemouth, because you're right, they're a great side, but you've got to stay in these games. Even Arsenal, when they went down to 10 men, you didn't think it was impossible for them to get a result. I know Bournemouth probably deserved the win from the basis of the game, but they could have maybe got something from it. And in that game, we just didn't look like we were going to get anything.
No, I completely agree with you. Thank you. Kallum's just rebooting his system, so hopefully he's back with us in a little bit. But Carl, how are you feeling ahead of this game? London derby, assuming it still goes ahead. I think a lot of us will be hoping it doesn't. With all due respect, with the Storm, I'm going to be the first to say that. But how are you feeling?
Nervous. Yeah, really nervous. Yeah. I just really don't like them lot. I just really don't like them. But I will admit they do look brilliant at the moment. And like Joseph said, they've rested so many players against Southampton and still annihilated them. Granted, I don't know if you saw the Southampton lineup. It was really bad. Yeah. Like really bad.
Injuries, haven't they?
Yeah, like it was really bad. I would have been surprised if Chelsea didn't go and get a result. But the fact that they're still able to get them results, like big results like that, and still rest key players, like they had Jackson on the bench. He's been brilliant this year. He's played really well this year. So I am nervous. I think we will turn up purely because of like what the occasion is, and they will have a lot of possession, and we do play well on the counter with this set of players. Brennan Johnson really does thrive with space in behind because he is rapid, like insanely quick. He does thrive with space in behind, arriving late at the back post. So I think we will turn up, but I'm not too confident of a result. I'm just hoping that if we do lose, it's not where we've lost because we have played badly. I don't mind, based off of the circumstances of how thin our squad is at the moment, if we lose purely because Chelsea were better, and we gave it a good shot. I will just be really angry if it's another spineless performance where players haven't taken the game by the scruff and wanted to actually get something from it.
Absolutely, mate. All we're asking for with London derbies is you give 110%. You show that a little bit extra than the other games, and not a lot shows me that we will. But it'd be toxic. There's no secret about it. It'd be toxic if we don't get the result, and it is, as in your words, a spineless performance. So I think that would not be a nice place to be at the weekend. But you don't know with Spurs. Hopefully, this is the bigger game we don't expect maybe to win, and we can produce a surprise. You just don't know. Bournemouth, I don't think we expected to win. I don't know if that's fair or not, but yeah, you would have backed us to, if it wasn't Spurs, Bournemouth should have been easier than Chelsea. Kallum, how are you feeling ahead of this London derby, but also your thoughts on Chelsea this season?
I'll go for the Chelsea one first, mate. Chelsea have been outstanding under Maresca. I mean, they have played really well.
Kallum, you've got some audio issues again, so hopefully you can get that sorted, and we might be able to be back with you in a little bit. We'll move on for now, and we'll focus on our lineup. And Joseph, I'll come back to you. Obviously, we haven't had Ange's press conference yet at the time of recording, but the consensus is, we think that Davis is out. As I keep saying, we're still waiting for that scan. But Romero's in contention. Was expected to train the last couple of days. Whether he has or not, we won't know until that press conference. But what would your team be?
God, my team. I think what I expect from Ange, I mean, I would go with something very different. Again, I think, actually, we don't even have the players for a free back, so let's not say that, actually. It's going to be Forster in net. I mean, to be fair, I think he's proven a lot of doubters wrong in the last couple of performances. I think he's been okay. You're going to have Porro. You're going to have, I mean, we hope Romero. We're begging for it, to be honest, because I can't. Archie Gray at centre back in this game. As much as I've been impressed with Archie Gray so far this season, centre back in a game against Chelsea, they're setting him up for failure, aren't they? So hopefully Romero and Dragoshin, one of them having to play on the left. Not sure who it will be. Probably Dragoshin. Left back, it's going to be a doggy, even though I think he's getting run into the ground. And I think you can see his performance is dropping each game. I mean, he wasn't terrible against Bournemouth, to be fair, but you can see he looks tired. He looks a bit leggy at points because he's just having to play every single game. I don't know why he refuses to use Spence, but anyway, it doesn't make any sense, does it? Just it feels like we need rotation in those positions, and he's got players there ready for it. Even, I mean, don't get me wrong, I don't think Reguilon's going to ever really be a part of Tottenham's team again, but the doggy cannot play every single game. He's going to get injured.
Of Ange being closed-minded, you don't give Reguilon or Spence really an opportunity.
No,
leaving Spence out of the Europa League squad is for me absolutely bonkers when you're taking that many goalkeepers.
It just seems confusing, doesn't it? When you just, again, Udogie and Porro, you could say are vital to our system. They play every single game, but if one of them get injured, what are you going to do? You know, no one's being ready, like no one's readily available to come into this squad. Apparently, you know, he doesn't seem like he trusts Spence, and it's like you need to rotate these players, otherwise they're going to get injured, just like half our other team have got injured. So it'll probably be Udogie, and then it's got to be Basuma, Sarr. I'd say Basuma, Sarr, Kulusevski. I think it's hard. Maybe Basuma, Sarr, Maddison, and then you have Kulusevski on the right, Solanke up front, Son on the left, but it's interchangeable with maybe Maddison, Kulusevski. You're not sure who's going to start in that midfield. No. Johnson, who could play on the right as well. So it's a tough one, really. I think he could go with a couple different things. It depends how he wants. I mean, Kulusevski's been our bright, shining light really all season, hasn't he? So where do you think he's going to impact the game most? In that midfield next to Sarr, or just in front of Sarr? Or do you think it's going to be on that right wing? Realistically, he's been probably better in that middle, which means Maddison might have to go to the bench. But yeah, it's a tough one. Maddison, Ambren and Johnson both could have been dropped after that Bournemouth game. I think they were the worst two on the pitch. They just completely and utterly just weren't there. So maybe Kulusevski in the middle, and then maybe Brennan Johnson on the right. It's tough to see, but the injuries are completely, you know, we've got such a thin squad. And I was looking at this yesterday, and it's how obviously the transfer policy seems crazy now that we're in this position where we've basically gone and signed 9, teenagers. Other than Solanke, we pretty much just signed teenagers last in the summer, and now we're trying to rely on these teenagers to fill in the gaps with our injured, with the squad being injured. But then it doesn't seem like Ange trusts them. So it's like, why didn't we sign any kind of, experience to be able to fill in these gaps? We've got such a thin squad, and it's because you've gone and spent 100 million on teenagers who aren't maybe necessarily ready yet. And that's not a dig on them. It's a dig on the transfer policy, where it's like, okay, well, now you've got Charleston out, you've got Vicario out, you've got Romero, you've got Van der Ven out, obviously Bentancur suspended, and now it feels like we're going to have to shoehorn in Archie Gray. We've got Bergval's got to get more minutes. It's like everyone's talking about this Yang Min Hyuk coming in. He has never played. I mean, it's his first season in adult football, in professional football, and we're expecting him to come in and be, to come in and just make an impact straight away. It's not going to happen. So I definitely blame Levy, and I think Ange has got to take some of that criticism as well, because he approved all these signings, and now we look completely lost in the sense that we've got no experience coming off that bench, ready to kind of just come in and do a job. It's all like, again, expecting Bergval to come in and be this shining light is too much for him. You can't expect that from such a young kid who's come from Sweden. You
can't. It's a lot for Gray as well, I think. And Ange said it will help him. I'm sure it will. But when you could lose that midfield ability, having not played there for a while, and you're just playing him in other positions, you don't want to get him overworked and get him injured. I feel like we're placing a lot on Archie Gray at the moment for our problems and our lack of planning. And that's how I see it anyway.
And it's like, as much as I think about Eric Dyer, I hated Eric Dyer. I was happy to see him gone. But I'd much rather see him at the back than Archie Gray playing centre back in that game.
Because someone who has experience of playing.
Exactly, someone who's got experience, someone who maybe he knows the occasion. he's ready. He knows what to expect, and he's ready for that game, for the moment. Archie Gray, as much as I want him, I think he's going to be great at Spurs. It's such a big moment, and it might be a bit too much for him right now. And it's just, again, we need, because I do some writing for the Spurs web, and I've been looking at making an article about what we need, and mate, we need so much. We need we could easily use 5 or 6 signings in January. It's obviously not going to happen, but that's how thin the squad is. Like Kyle said, the squad's so thin, and we're really, really going to struggle if we don't make some signings. But those signings need to be a bit more experience, even if that's still 24, 25-year-olds. Doesn't have to be 30-year-olds, but players that have some experience on maybe the international stage, as well as just playing in some of these top leagues and are ready for the moment that they're going to be pushed into.
No, I appreciate that, Joseph. I think you make some really valid points in there, so I really do appreciate that. Carl, we'll move on to your lineup. Talk us through it, 1 to 11.
Okay, so this is what I think would probably be the lineup. Actually, is it my lineup, or is it what I think Ange will play?
It can be your lineup, so it's what
my lineup.
You would do if you're Ange Postecoglou.
Okay. Okay. So I'd go for, obviously, Forster in goal, probably Dragishin, and if Romero's fit, Romero. Right back, probably Porro, because he didn't play as much against Bournemouth, so he's a bit more fit. I'd go Spence left back, because, like Joseph said, a doggy looks knackered. Like, he has played pretty much every game since he had a big injury in the summer at a young age, and for him to come back and have to play every game, and even in games where he has started on the bench, someone gets injured ridiculously early. I think it was against Man City in the Carabao Cup, was it, where he had to come on in the first, it was like 15, 20 minutes where he was on the bench. It's like, so when he is being rested, he's having to come on and play another 70 minutes. He just doesn't really... I
think it was even in that Carabao game, wasn't it, when Dragishin got sent off? Did he come on after 6 minutes? He finally gets his break and he comes on straight away.
Yeah, it's like every time we go to rest him, something happens where he has to play 70, 80 minutes of the game. And it's, he looks knackered, and I don't really blame him. He's played a lot this year. Midfield, I would probably go for Sarr, Basuma, and probably Kulusevski, purely because I think Kulusevski offers a bit more legs in the midfield and that running power than what Maddison does. And I think the defence is going to be shaky. So you probably do want that work rate in the middle of the pitch to maybe cut out passing lanes and win the midfield battle. I think Maddison at times can be a bit timid, a bit, doesn't really get stuck in. I said it earlier, he spends a lot of time on the floor when you do want your midfielders, battling, especially in a London derby. It's going to be a bit gritty. It's going to be a bit nasty. Left wing Son, striker Solanke, right wing Brennan. I think that can't really change that too much, to be honest.
No, I'm with you on that. No, I appreciate that. And Carl, I'll stay with you because I do want to quickly touch on Chelsea. Who are their danger men? Obviously, we know the obvious: Cole Palmer, Nicholas Jackson's having a really good season. Is there anyone else that's really impressed you for them?
Enzo Fernandez recently has looked extremely good. He's getting involved in a lot of goals. He's a great passer of the ball, got a nice passing range. So I think he would be someone that we have to look out for. I also think Caicedo this season as well has looked really good. And he's also, he's been playing midfield. He's also filled in at right back and done a really good job there. And that's the signs of a really good player, if you can just play them in like a variety of positions, and they're able to do not just do a job, but play very well, like be a standout player. So I think their whole team in general, to be honest, is just in form, isn't it? They just do look strong in most departments. You could even say Cucurella recently has looked really solid down the left side, kind of reminiscent of his Euros form. He was kind of clowned on a little bit last year, really, wasn't he? From other fan
the price
bases.
tag had a lot to do with it, didn't it?
Yeah, he was kind of
also what he was
Enzo
saying.
Fernandez.
Yeah,
All the stuff about Haaland and stuff like that.
Yeah,
he was clowned on a little bit last year for his performances and what he was saying, but I think this year he's just looked a completely different player. He looks like the player that got him signed for Chelsea. Reminiscent of his Brighton form. So it's just the whole team in general, really. That they're a good side, aren't they? But there's no denying.
No, exactly. And another player to add in there is Cucurella. I think has done really well. I think Chelsea haven't been as bad defensively as I thought they would be with that transition from Pochettino to Maresca. I don't think they're recruited that well at all in those areas. Attacking positions, I think they've done well, bringing in Sancho, Neto, etc. But defensive positions, I don't think Adebayo, Tosin. There wasn't much that they've done in there defensively that was strong. But Colwell's doing really well. But Cucurella's the one that's really calmed down and become a really good left back. Reece James obviously is out once again, so maybe they haven't done as well. Right back, they've chopping and changing right back with Gusto, Disasi. There's been no regular, consistent starter there. But apart from that, Maresca knows his team inside out. He's got that squad depth. As you said, Southampton can rest those players and still get the job done. I think they could have played Cole Palmer and still, got the job done. So Chelsea in that really good position at the moment where there is no need to rotate, no European football either. So they could have a really, really strong season. So I wouldn't discount them from anything. I don't think they're ready for the title fight. I wouldn't just say, right, they can't do it, but purely based on the fact they're not in Europe and if they get lucky with keeping players fit as well. Reece James, I think you're going to be an exception. I think you've got to accept there's an injury-prone player there. But Joseph, any other players that stand out to you from Chelsea and that you've watched of Chelsea so far that's really impressed you under Enzo Maresca? Because they are second.
Sadly, I think Noni Madueke looks class. Obviously, the player that we had in our academy that we let go of. Again, just showing the frailties of Tottenham where we haven't maybe created a good pathway for some of these youngsters into the first team enough. But I think he looks like what we want Brennan Johnson to be sometimes. He gets on the ball and he looks confident with it as well. He looks like he wants to drive at defenders. He wants to... Again, there's a goal he scored against Southampton that was really nice. He just looks full of confidence right now, and I'd love to have him at Tottenham. I wish we had him still, but I think he's looked really, really good. It's whether he plays though, because of the amount of depth they've got. Again, you don't really know what they're going to come at you with.
You don't know,
especially in those forward positions. Cole Palmer, Nicholas Jackson will really play, but then they've got Nkunku, then they've got Sancho, they've got Madueke, they've got all these different players. You don't really know who's going to be playing. But for me, I think going forward, Madueke looks really, really good. And then, you're right. I think defensively as a unit, they've looked a bit more solid recently. They don't look as frail as they did maybe at the start of the season. I think a good news for us, I don't think their goalkeeper's too great, Robert Sanchez, whether he plays or not. I haven't been impressed with him this season.
Yeah, he will play. He just can't cope with that pressure, I don't think. He's not good with his feet.
So, but I think the players in front of him, again, they're starting to get, the back four that they know is going to be playing week in, week out, other than obviously if they get injuries. I think, like Kyle said, their midfield is solid. I think they're finally getting a partnership with Caicedo, with Enzo Fernandez. I don't know if Lavia is available, but I think he's really good as well when he's played for them. It's scary to see Chelsea getting good again. And, they've got some of these wonder kids coming in, like I think his name is Estavio, the Brazilian wonder kid coming in. Yeah, they're looking dangerous and they're going to keep on getting better. Just hopefully can Tottenham keep up with them? I don't know.
Yeah, exactly that. Joseph, I come to score predictions now before we wrap up for this week's podcast. So what's your score prediction in this game?
I think pessimistically, score predictions probably, maybe a 2-0 to Chelsea, 3-1 to Chelsea maybe. But I want to be positive, like I will be probably 5 minutes before the game, going, go on, we can have this. I think I'll go the opposite. I think I'll go maybe 2-1 Spurs. But you just don't know what you're going to get with Tottenham.
No, you don't, do you?
You really don't. So we'll see. Got to be positive. Got to try and, like you said, get behind Ange, because scream and yell at him isn't going to solve anything right now. So we've got to try and get behind him and support him. But
Absolutely.
yeah, I'm nervous for him, to be honest. I think it's going to be a tough game, and that stadium will not be happy if he has a bad performance, just like this one against Bournemouth.
Yeah, absolutely. I get it's hard, but as you say, in this period, I won't say difficult period. I don't think overall it is, but it's last few games, it hasn't been what we wanted. It hasn't been the start of the season we wanted. So during those more difficult times, you have to unite behind the players, the manager, and just get behind the club. I understand it's hard. A lot of fans have done the miles this year, and I do feel sorry for them. Some of the performances we've seen, in particular, since the days of Pochettino, and that included some of the days under Ange, Bournemouth being the latest one away from home. I do feel for them, but I think we still have to continue to get behind Ange and the team. So I think regardless, they need us. This is the London derby. I totally get the frustration, but I think there's no benefit in getting rid of the manager. It's certainly not in the middle of a busy festive period. There's no point turning on him now. I think we've got back in. Let's get through this month. Let's go into the new year, see where we are, and try and find a little bit of consistency. But Carl, what's your score prediction in this game? Is there a difference between what your head says and what your heart says?
You know what? I'm going to be positive and say that we might actually turn up tomorrow, and I think it will be 2-1 to Spurs.
Love it.
We just do seem to turn up against sides that aren't willing to sit back, and I think that will probably tie into our hands a little bit. But like Joseph said, if we lose that, the lane is going to be a really toxic place. That full-time whistle. But hopefully before the game, I think I saw something on Twitter about there being like a tifo being arranged for the game. Hopefully with that display, it might actually kick some of the players into gear and them see it for what it is, which is a really big game. Potentially a season-defining game. It's a busy period. If we can get a result here, that might install some belief within the side that they can turn it around and top four is possible, because it is really tight at the top. Obviously, you have Liverpool well and clear at the moment. They look phenomenal, but the rest of the sides, everyone's well in the mix. Anyone's capable.
It's what we want, isn't it? Really, if we discount Spurs from this, it's what we want, isn't it? An open, battle at the top and all round for European place. It's really tight, isn't it? So we're a couple of wins away, well, less than that, to being second. But at the same time, we're closer to the relegation zone than we are, the top of the league, for example. I think we're closer to the bottom of the league than the top. So, you could look at it either way. It is really congested. So I think you make a good point with that. So.
Yeah.
I think a lot of the anger anyway, because I think if it does go wrong, the anger will be pointed at Ange. And it's a shame, really, because the anger needs to be pointed at the owners. It shouldn't be Ange. I mean, 20 years of failure, really, under Levy. That's where the anger needs to be.
But what do you make of the conversations about the ownership? Because, it's been quiet this season until the results haven't gone our way. I'm not trying to necessarily be difficult here, but just trying to play devil's advocate, I suppose. Do you think that why these conversations only happening when the results aren't going well? They need to happen, don't they? If you feel that way when we're also winning, and it feel like that a lot of big Spurs pages, etc. I'm not calling out anyone in particular, but there's been a lot, not necessarily change their mind on Ange, but start the whole things are really pushing it. And now our results haven't gone our way.
100%, you're right, and I think that's just the problem with every single. I think that's just the problem with football fans. I think when things are going well, all the bad things around the club are forgotten, and then you look at Chelsea even last season or the last couple of seasons, they've been atrocious. Everyone's saying how terrible their ownership has been, where they've come in and kind of ignored all philosophies within football and have just gone and spent £1 billion. Now they're finally doing well. There's no conversation about Todd Bowley or Clear Lake. There's nothing. And I think it's the same with Tottenham. When we're bad, everyone talks about Daniel Levy. And when we're good, everyone is quiet. So you're right, 100%. But I think where it's coming to a head is it feels like we're almost getting close to the end of this cycle again, where Ange's job could end up being sacked soon. And I think everyone's kind of realising, I think we've all known it, but I think we're kind of taking off the sunglasses and we're kind of going, it's happening again. The same thing, it's happening again. The owners are hiding behind the manager and going, it's his fault. He takes the brunt of it. We're going to have to sack him and get someone else in. And it's clear. I think it's clear for everyone to see that Levy is, the person orchestrating everything for Tottenham in the last 20 years. And there are some positives. I do feel bad in a way, because, think about where Tottenham was when he took over. We were in the mud, and he made us a massive club in football. But
from a business point of view, he's been very good.
But that's the problem, though. He's a businessman, and he's treated Tottenham as a business rather than a football club. Doesn't care about the performances, the results on the pitch. I even remember after that Champions League final, he did not back Pochettino enough.
That for me is the biggest mistake.
Yeah, and it's like he doesn't care about the results on the pitch. It's always been about revenue, how he can drive money. And again, it's even with the atmosphere in the stadium, it has been poor recently, and he doesn't care about the atmosphere. He cares about the tickets being sold. He's happy for tourists to be taking those tickets if regular, maybe true Tottenham fans don't get the tickets. It doesn't matter to him. He's not, so it's...
A lot of people said, didn't they, and sorry to interrupt, that Roma game, there was a lot of Roma fans in the home end, for example, that annoyed a lot of fans.
And I'm like, I don't want this to come across as, in a bad way at all, but obviously there's a lot of Koreans that come to Tottenham games, obviously to watch Son. And I understand that, but obviously they're not there for Tottenham. They're there for Son. And it's like, obviously, when we had White Hart Lane, I remember going to White Hart Lane, you had some great games. And it always felt like the true Tottenham fan was there in attendance. You don't get that when you go to this stadium now.
There's always someone different, isn't there?
It feels like, again, there's people there for a day out. Obviously, the tickets are so extortionate now that I don't think the regular match day going fan, going to see games now is really difficult. It's so expensive. So, and it's, again, all of this, it just feels like, I was looking at it, it feels like Levy's turning Tottenham into a franchise. He's not about the football club anymore. It's about Tottenham as an entity. Like, what can we become? Like, we can, all the NFL stuff, the F1 stuff, the concerts. Even recently where they took the name off the badge. It's not like it's a massive thing, but it all kind of looks like Tottenham's becoming a franchise.
I have no strong view at this moment in time on the ownership, but that did strike me as them trying to take Tottenham out of Tottenham, if you like.
Yeah, that's how it feels at the moment.
That's how it felt to me.
No, I completely agree. That's how it feels, isn't it? It feels like maybe they're getting ready to sell, and then maybe, well, that's what we'd hope. But again, the people who've got to come in, we just need someone who cares about the results. Even, the point about like how maybe fans are kind of quiet until something's going wrong. You think about Arsenal under Kroenke, they hated them for ages, and then they switched, and suddenly they've started spending money on the squad, creating a team for Arteta to try and win with, and everyone loves them. They're completely happy with Edu, and obviously Edu's leaving now, but they're happy with everyone behind the scenes because,
like you say, football fans is that quick in the motion, the adrenaline,
it is.
That quick reaction.
We're all subject to it. I'm the same. I'm like it as well. But
we all are. Yeah, definitely.
The last couple of days, just seeing everything online, it just shows that Levy is never feels like we're going to be really successful under him, and that's why I don't blame Ange too much. As much as I don't know if I do believe he's the right guy, it's clear that Levy's not the right guy.
No, thank you, Joseph. Last but not least, Kyle, where do you stand? Obviously, you listen to a lot of this. I want to bring you in on this. How do you feel with the ownership and maybe the direction we're heading in? Do you have a strong view on the ownership?
I think that the fan base are too, as a whole, obviously there are like a large majority of the fan base are constantly campaigning against the owners. I think we can just be a little bit spineless. We do forget when everything's going right about the issues, whereas we should be constantly not giving them any room to breathe. But the owners, we kind of let them get away with it when things are going well, and then it's only when things start going bad again. It's the owners. They need to go. Blah blah blah. We need to be constantly at them, and like actually, if fans have got that much of an issue with it, start boycotting games. Like, they're not going to like it when they start losing money from it. Whereas I think that's tying in with the stadium being more of like a day out now. When you've got attractions such as the Skywalk, or Europe's longest bar, or the go-kart track and stuff.
All great stuff, by the way.
Yeah,
but I know what you mean. It just is not what we're looking for, is it?
Yeah, it's like people are still going to be turning up for those kind of things. So if people have got such an issue with it, and they're campaigning for the owners to go, they'll want nothing less than people not turning up to the games. And yeah, I think about the removing the name from the badge, I understand why people like yourself would say that they're kind of like moving into like the franchise direction. But then I saw a tweet that someone had got up all the Tottenham badges throughout their history, and Tottenham Hotspur actually isn't listed on the badge as much as you perhaps would think it is.
No, I agree with that. I did see that, but I think it's more just like the principle of it. I think it's just with everything else as well, kind of tying into it. It does feel like we're just becoming this.
It looks bad.
Franchise. It doesn't feel like, and just everything he does, it just doesn't feel like he's really ever been. He doesn't care about the results on the pitch. Like I saw someone saying about how the money he spent on these teenagers, he could probably look at it as like, oh yeah, he spent 100 million now, but in half a decade, that could be 500 million, because those players are going to grow, and then we can, it's not. I don't know.
That's where that communication comes in that we don't get from the board and the owners about the direction of the club. What's the plan? Yeah, the benefits of the new stadium.
I was thinking, imagine having an interview with Daniel Levy and just him getting asked the tough questions and having to answer them. We've never seen it, even in the when they have that that yearly thing with fans. He's never asked anything really questionable, is he? It's always...
I always listen to bits out of that, and from people who go, what you hear is you don't get out the trajectory or the project, kind of the long-term vision of the club. It's all about now, and they're always called at a convenient time. I feel so. I think they need to take on that responsibility, and even if he just does it himself and he can control the questions, that's fine. But do include things about the project and the vision, because like Newcastle, for example, the new owners come in, and whatever you think of them, but there's a vision there. You know what they're trying to achieve. They're keeping that community feel. But literally the last thing is here. There's a question about, would you prefer American or Middle Eastern ownership, and Juju in the chat. So Carl, I'll start with you if you want to briefly answer that. Do you have a preference if the owners sell up?
No preference, just as long as they're legitimate, like either of the two. I can't really be asked with, new owners coming in and them being full of controversy, whether it be Middle Eastern or American. So no preference, just as long as they're legitimate and willing to actually spend the money to get us on track.
Yeah, good answer. I agree with that. Thank you very much. Joseph, what do you think? American, Middle Eastern, or is it about morals in this case? Is it about just winning and taking whatever comes?
No, I mean, I hope we win the right way. If we're going, when we eventually win, I hope it is the right way. I don't want it to be, cheating or whatever. I don't want the wrong people in charge. I know there was some rumors about that. Is it Jerry Jones, the owner of the Dallas Cowboys? There was some small rumors about him.
I think they were shut down, wasn't it?
Yeah, they were. But I remember I saw that and I was like, oh no, please no, because he has been awful for the Dallas Cowboys. So
bad reputation.
Yeah, I mean, I'm quite open to anyone who's here to come in and who cares about Tottenham and wants to see a successful football club. If that's what we can get, I'm happy with whoever. But again, it's just like Kyle said, it's like who's that person going to be? It doesn't really matter about exactly who, but who. It's hard to find an ownership that's going to care about that enough.
Absolutely. Now, I think that wraps us up nicely for this week's episode of the Scarfey Spurs Talk Podcast. An extra episode this week called Emergency Podcast, following that Bournemouth little, disaster, if you like. And moving on to Chelsea, I thought it was a busy week. I'm not working today like I usually am on a Saturday. Also, the Storm, a lot of people being in. So firstly, I want to thank the entire panel. I want to thank Kallum earlier, who had to leave. He had lots of audio issues. Also, thank you to Casey, who also had to leave earlier with audio issues, all linked to Storm. Derek, about Wi-Fi, etc., crashing at various different points. We got through it. It did take its toll at times. Firstly, thank you, Kyle, for coming on once again. Where can people find you across social media?
Yeah, so I've put my Instagram there. It's at Kyle Freegard on X. I talk anything Tottenham. I also do a bit of Lincoln City with my work experience. So if you're interested, then give it a follow.
Yeah, thank you very much. Keep up the good work. Thank you very much for coming on, Kyle. Joseph, thank you very much. I may say so. I think you had a very solid debut, and as far as I'm concerned, you're welcome back anytime. Very keen to get you on again. Where can people find you across social media, for those who don't know?
Just on Twitter, on X. My link's there, Joseph THFC. Do a bit of writing with the Spurs web, but also maybe looking to do more podcasts and things like that. So no, thank you for having me on. Really enjoyed it, and you're a great host. Really enjoyed this.
Oh, thank you very much. No, it was a really good show and you all made it special. So thank you very much. If you're new to the channel, don't forget to like and subscribe. It's massively appreciated. It helps the channel and the podcast grow. A lot of people listen live, so big up to you. Also big up to the people who listen after via audio, who often listen all the way through. We appreciate your dedication as we come to the end of 2024. But if you haven't already, please do smash that follow button and leave us a 5-star review if you're enjoying the show. And by all means, head over to YouTube and smash that subscribe button, because it does help, even if you don't decide not to watch on YouTube and stick to audio. If you want to follow me, you can there at Harry Scarfe 22. But most importantly, do that to the channel by subscribing, by following wherever you're listening, and checking out these guys, and also checking out our sponsors in Secure VPN and the Kitman. We thank them both for sponsoring the show as always. But for now, a massive come on you Spurs, keep the faith.